There we go. All right. So, does everybody have their Kali Linux up like I do? We'll give you a couple minutes to get it started. But the majority of what we're going to do, we're just going to go over some commands in the terminal. Um, this is just basic Linux stuff, so it's not going to be really like how to use the tools or anything for Juice Shop. We'll go over some of that for Juice Shop later in the month, but that'll be
Yeah,
like
so
our
you'll be good with any version of Linux then?
yeah, as long as it runs, what is it, Debian or Debian? Because
Yes.
those are the commands that I have. Don't ask me to use like Red Hat and DNF and Yum. Um,
Yeah, so if you have Ubuntu, Debian, Linux Mint, anything like that, that'll work just fine.
yeah, I figured most people would have the Kali Linux set up because that's what we've done.
That's what you went through, yeah.
Yeah, but like we'll just go over. Here's a couple quick commands. Type them along as we go. But like when you log into the terminal, and you're just a normal user at this, we got a couple commands real quick. We'll just go pwd, which is print working directory. And so it will tell you where you are located within the computer system. Um, just another quick one too, if you don't know, you can type who am I, and this will tell you what user you are. There's another command just like who am I, it's who. And this tells you the users that are currently logged into the computer. So if you're on a computer in a network that people do a lot of work on through the terminal, there may be multiple people logged in. So it's like a security thing. That's something you can check. And then right after that is another command. We'll get more information about who's logged in. It's called finger. And so that'll show more information there. Like the login is the Kali user. I was idle for 2 minutes, whatever. But there's the login time. I was logged in at 16:44 this afternoon. So, but just another quick one that you guys are going to use all the time is another command called ls, and it stands for list. And so it will list everything in that present working directory that we looked at earlier. So you see on my screen, directories are blue and files will be white generally. Some other colors will be involved, but those are the two big colors for this one. So you see
And you
all,
can change those colors depending on how your terminal is set up, by the way. It's not always going to be white and blue, but in Kali, that's how it's set up by default.
yeah, because I want to say in my Linux Mint, like I had some red ones and stuff.
Hmm.
I think red was like compressed files. So
Yeah, red is typically zip files by default, but like I said, it depends on the terminal you're using and your themes and all that.
yeah, it's all customizable too. So you can go change anything you want in there too. But like we said, this is the listed stuff in the directory. Now there's another command you can run right after it. If you type ls-a, this lists everything in the present working directory. So you see a lot of other stuff just showed up, right? Those are hidden files. But those are things you need to know that are in there. You can access those to do other things. The bash RC file, we'll go through that later today as a little fun exercise. But the bash RC file controls the terminal that I'm in. So it's for my user. So different users, they generally all come with the same bash RC file off the bat, but you can go in and edit things in there so that that particular user has a customized experience on that. So speaking of users, another command you would use is systemedmin would be users. And these are all the users in the directory, or not this present directory. These are all the users that are available on this system. There's only one. It's the Kali user because I did not add any others. Groups is another one. Now, groups specifically, does the users apply just to you, Dylan?
What do you mean?
When I type that users command, then that's everybody on the system, correct?
I believe so. I think you can configure it to do one or the other, but I think by default it just lists all the users.
Yeah. Because we'll go to another section in a bit too to show some commands off. If you have multiple users and groups, it'll show up in there. But that groups command, when you type groups in, it tells you what groups the user that you are is involved or has permissions or is part of. So you'll see things in here. The big one is the fifth one, I believe. It's sudo. So this user is a sudo user. Towards the end, you'll see things like Wireshark. So this user has access to run things in Wireshark. And some of those, like, you can just run without having to elevate privileges based on that. Just some other basic ones. So like I said, we're PWD. We're in Kali. CD changes directory. Stands for change directory. So let me ls again. So let's CD and we'll pick documents. It is case sensitive, so you have to capitalize the D in documents here. And there we are. It shows us in the documents folder. So we'll just ls, nothing in here, ls-a. I can't remember what those two, the dot and the double dot, are, but they're hidden files you really don't ever mess with. Let me go back.
Dot doesn't really do anything. Double dot is when you do cd dot dot, it brings you up a directory.
No, but in the ls command right here, do you see those two hidden files?
Yes.
Okay, because I know that was
That's
what I
what
was
it
going to
refers
show.
to. Yeah, that double dot file exists as a file. It's just a thing that brings you up.
So what he's talking about is CD. We want to change directories, right? So we want to go back up. So there's two ways to go back up. You can do home, or we'll go /home, /Kali, and it brings us back up one. Or we'll see CD. We'll go back into documents. You can do CD space .. So two dots brings you up one working directory. You can / two more dots. Now you're telling I want to go up two directories. And in this case, from the documents, if we do 3 and do PWD, we're at the root level. So at root level, we can look at everything again. And this is everything in the computer right here. You'll see things like boot, Etsy, dev. Home is where all the users and their personal storage is stored. So if we go down to home again, we can see that. My user. There's mount would be like a media drive or drives that are mounted. I believe media, don't quote me on this, is media devices?
No, devices would be /dev, I believe.
So let's see.
Media would be...
Yeah, dev shows all the other stuff in there, like the console and the characters. Let's see. I don't have anything in there, so. But, okay, so ls again. All right. Now, here's something you can do from here. The ls command. We can tell, instead of just listing what is in the present directory, we can choose a location. So we'll go home /Kali, and it lists all the document, or it lists everything in that directory, the home /Kali directory. So you don't have to change directories to look at something. You can just do it from where you are as long as you know the file path. So at the base file path is root, or that /. And then from there you can see, we got to go down into home. And here's another one. We'll just list home and see what's in there. There's only one user, Kali, in there. If we added another one, you would see up to 2 or 3 depending on them. Groups last, okay, free. So we'll go back into home. So here's some commands we'll run through real quick, just to show you things that are on your computer. So ls, again, we want to list something, right? Well, this time we're going to, there's one word, CPU after it. So we want to list the CPU information. Now you're going to get a big, let's screen that up. You're going to get a bunch of information in there. But you'll see things like, oh, here's the architecture. It's x86, 64. We got CPUs. I got 4 Let's see, virtualization features, yada yada yada. So you can look at that now. We'll do another one, LS, and the last three letters are going to be PCI, and this will give us the PCI components that are in our computer. You see like an Ethernet controller, multimedia controller, USB controller. Don't ask me why I have a SATA controller in there. I guess that's the hard drive that's stuck in it.
Yeah, that's for your hard drive.
Yeah. I don't know if I can even change my hard drive in here.
Should be able to.
Well, some of them are hard soldered in. I know that.
Yeah.
I know it's mostly with RAM. What does PCI stand for? Is it something component interface? Is it personal or
Peripheral.
Not sure off the top of my head.
Okay, so there's two kinds.
Hey.
Yeah, peripheral. Thank you. There's two kinds. There's PCI and there's PCIe, and I believe E stands for mini, or it's a smaller version of it. So if you have like a full-size desktop and you take it open, you will see PCI slots in there, and this is where you can add things to your computer. If your computer didn't come with a wireless card for some reason, you can put one in there. That's where you hook up the graphical GPUs. Like if you're adding one there, you can put them on the PCIs. You can do. There's other cards for PCIs that are like, oh, here's 3 more USB plugins. So this is just components that you can add, and this is a list of the components that are in the PCI. So 2 other things that we'll check real quick. There's a command called free and a command called df. So free refers to the memory in your computer. So go ahead and type free on your computer, and you'll see it pop up. You have memory and swap. I believe swap is virtual memory. It's not very big. And then memory is your actual RAM cards in there. Now, these numbers don't mean anything to me. What is it? 80... Is that 8 million? Yeah, there's like 8 million or something there. So here's an easy way to get around this to understand it. Type free again and do -H. So with the free command, the -H means human readable. And oh my goodness, look at that now. I can read it. I got 7.8 gigs of memory for this computer here. So this information will be, if you're running the Kali virtual machine, it'll be whatever you gave it. If you only gave it 4, this is where you're going to find out you got 4. So the df command, we'll run that now real quick. Df will tell you disk space usage. Once again, a bunch of big numbers. So let's just do df -H and get it in a human readable format. So you can see all the different drives on the, or not drive. Yeah, I guess it would be drives, would be the term. Or this is how they're broken down into partitions. So you'll see the size of them in the left column, how much of it is used, and then in the third column, the available amount followed by a percentage and where that actual partition is mounted at. So you see my big one, I got 79 gigs in. So the -dev-SDA1, guys, correct me if I get the terminology wrong here. That is your first hard drive in a computer. If we mounted an additional hard drive, we would label it SDA2, and then you can do SDA3. So it's a way to keep track of the physical hard drive and the space on it. You can. There's other things we're not going to get into. I think it's a LVM, Logical Volume Manager, but that is a way to take multiple physical hard disks and then collate them into one virtual disk, essentially. So the computer puts all the information across 3 of them. Not like it's backups, but it uses all 3 as one hard drive. So we move that. All right, so are you guys all in your home directory? PWD, check where you're at. All right, so let's make some files. Let's screw around. So the touch command is a way to create a text file. So, or create a file, excuse me. And in this case, let's go ahead and name it test.txt. So in Linux, okay, now we created it with ls, there it is. Now you see the white, that means it's a file. So now we have a txt file. In Linux, when you create the file, you add the identifier at the end of it that tells it what kind of file it is. So this is a text file. We can go in and we can write Python script in there, and then we can later change that to a .py file and then run it as a Python script. So they let you, it just operates as a text file or under text, and you can change what it does left and right. Is that more people?
Attendance, yeah.
Okay. And let's see. All right, so there's a term called cat. Let me type this back in. Cat. So cat stands for concatenate, I believe is the term, and it just reads off what's in the file. So ignore that Etsy shadow for now. We'll do that in a second. You guys all created your test.txt, so let's cat test.txt, and nothing happens because there's nothing in the file. So let's go ahead and add some stuff to the file real quick. So what we're going to do, we're going to go nano. This is a text editor, and type the file that we want to edit. So nano test.txt, and it opens in the nano editor. So you see in the top left it says GNU Nano. So this is a terminal-based text editor. Your mouse doesn't work here. You can only use the keyboard. So I'm going to screw around in here. I'm going to type, I'm just going to put a bunch of numbers in here. All right, so we have numbers 1 through 15. Anytime you type in anything into Nano, if you want to save it, or well, excuse me, when you're done and you want to exit, you need to press Control X. Now it's going to ask you, do you want to save this? You can say no, hey, I just wanted to look around in there and see what is in there. But in this case, we want to save it, so we're going to press Y. So now we have saved this file with that edited information in there. So let's try the cat command again, and cat test.txt. And it prints it out on the screen for us to read, numbers 1 through 15. Well, there's two other commands we can use to look at this file as well. Let me scroll up to my notes. So there's two commands, head and tail, and they do exactly what they sound like. If you type head.test.txt, it will give you the top portion of it. It specifically gives you the top 10 lines of it. So 1 through 10. Or if we had started at 0, 0 through 9. So type that, and then next type tail. And just like head, tail's going to probably do exactly what you think. It's going to give you the last 10 lines of a file. And so there we go. 6 through 15. Well, there's other ways to mess with there's other ways to mess with head and tail. If you don't want 10 lines and you want a different number, we'll type head -n space, and this is where you choose how many lines you want. So we can do 5 lines here, and it gives me the top 5 lines. Or I can do head -n, and I want more. I want the top 20 lines, which in this case we're not going to have 20. But it prints off everything. So you can do this with tail as well. So tail -n, and select how many lines you want. By default, the head and tail do 10. So if you want a different number, type it in. And there we go. There's the last 8 in there. Let me see. So here's another thing too. On Kali Linux, we're in a text editor, or we're in a terminal. And when you use the nano command on that file, you opened it with the nano editor, which is a terminal editor. You can just type open.tst.txt, and here it opens up in whatever it's mouse pad, but this is like a Word document, so you can use your mouse, you can move around in here, do different things. You'll see on the left side in this document, the numbers match up. And the numbers match up because the first number on the side is the line number. So even though I got empty lines here, let's do 20. And we'll go ahead and save this. And then exit out. And then we'll screw around with cat and tail again. And we'll see the blank spaces in there. So we'll do head -n20 test.txt, and it prints out exactly what was in that folder, or in that text file, excuse me, not folder. So you see all the blank spaces we put in there now? Same thing, we can do tail, and we'll only do the last 5 with tail. There's the last 5 right there. Where is my other note? Okay, so there's some other things we can do with this file without opening it. So let's say we want to add data to it. Excuse me. We can do that from the command line without opening Nano or excuse me, without using Nano or without using the open command. So the command you're going to use is echo. And we will, let's see, we'll put 21 space and then your little caret arrow looking thing, greater than sign. So here, if I only use 1, what that is going to say is I want to write that 21 to that file, but I'm going to rewrite everything in that file to what I'm typing here. There's another one you can do, just add a second one, and this is called append, or it's going to add it to the end of the file. So type echo 21 your double carets .test.txt, and we'll go ahead and just cat the whole file and see it now. And you see the 21's been added. Well, let's go ahead and destroy the file. So we'll do echo, and we'll do 1, or we'll do 44, and who cares? Test.txt. So cat test.txt again, and everything is gone out of the file. So this is a very powerful way to add data to a file, but you can also screw the file up by doing this type of thing. It's much safer just to go into Nano or into the text file and do it. But you can use this kind of thing. We're not going to cover it tonight, but there's times where you can run it's called grep, where it finds information. And you can tell it, hey, I want you to check all the information in the logins, and I want you to put it into this text file. So you can tell it to append to a text file or overwrite a text file, and it just gives you all that information there, so you can print it out somewhere else. So we'll go back and open up our txt file again. So Nano, all right, let's delete it. We'll type all our numbers out again. We'll go ahead and save. We got 11 in there. So let's ls. All right, so we see my test.txt in there. Let's go ahead and make a directory. I want to store that someplace not on my home page right there. So to make a directory, we use mkdir, and we'll make a directory called test. And now we just type ls again. And we see 2 things in here. Now you see your test directory and your test.txt file. All right, turn that phone off. So, where's the command? I got to look through my notes again. The MV, does that move or remove or rename files?
Both.
Both? Okay, so I want to say in this case, if we just type MV and then test.txt and we type test1.txt, we're going to rename that test file to test.1. And you see it's test.1 now. So let's cat that file. Still the same information. All we did was rename the file. But we can use the mv command as well to move it. So we're going to move test.1. I want to say, I don't know if I have to type the whole path here. Kali test. So we typed mv test1.txt. Then we chose our file path where we want it to go, home to Kali to the test directory. So let's ls the test directory. And it shows test1 is now in the test directory. So let's move to the test directory. that command again, remember, cd. And once again, we can check that our file's in there. So let's back up one. Remember we used the open command? So we used open test.1. Well, let's type that again now in the home directory for Kali. It's going to tell us can't open it because it can't find where it's at. But if we do open /test /test1 txt. Oh crap. I still got to give it the full directory. So type open /home /Kali /test /test1.txt. And there we opened it. Does anybody have any questions about this, or do we want to run through and practice some of this some more, messing around with editing these files? Nobody? Man, y'all are quiet. Alright, so let's look at another thing. So one of the things when you guys are running some of these test out classes and you're using Linux, they're going to ask you to check a directory called etc passwd. So let's go ahead and look at that right now. Let's go cat. So I want to see everything in here. etc passwd. Not password. I would have thought it was password too, but it's passwd. Now this is going to give you a whole bunch of information. This stuff, so let's see, Kali down here at the very bottom of our screen is the PID. I want to say it's the PID, correct? That 1000. Is that what that's called?
Yes, I think it's UID.
Okay, yeah, UID. So that's
UID.
The first
UID.
user created on a system is going to be 1000. Linux reserves 0 through 99 for other functions. You'll see Juice Shop on here has some. This is how they keep, and root is always going to be 0 if you go back up to the top. And this is just how they keep track. It's an identifying number for things. So theoretically, we can go in and change my Kali username, but I will still have the UID of 1000. So that way it tracks all that same stuff. I still have the same permissions. I still have access to the same files. All we have done is change my name. So there's another file that you guys are going to look at. It's called etc /shadow. The etc /shadow has the passwords. So let's look at my Kali Linux password. etc shadow. So do cat etc /shadow. I have to sudo this because you need root access to get in there. So sudo cat /etc shadow. Oh my goodness, I am an idiot. Half this video, the bottom left hand, you can't see when I'm typing this stuff. So we'll move it over there. Alright, so let me enter my password. Alright, it shows pretty much the same information that was in the etc passwd file. But you'll see down here this big string of characters. That is my password. Now that's not the password I type in. That is a hash of my password. So it encrypts the passwords. You can't see this information. Some of the stuff you can come in and you can crack these passwords by pulling them and running them against password lists and doing things, but you can't go in and look at it with your naked eye and find a password for people. Root. So those are the two files you're going to see a lot in your other thing. The last couple things I got real quick, if we want to go back, we'll screw around with making files again just for like basic stuff. Let's see, PWD, make sure I'm still in the same place. All right. Echo overwrites. Okay, open file, cat. Let's see. So ls. So let's go into our test. And I want to do something real quick. I didn't practice this earlier, but we'll practice it now. So let's make a second test file. But we're just going to name it the original. So touch test.txt. And then we'll cat both of these files in here to see what's in them. So the test.txt should be empty, and the cat test1.txt should have all my numbers in there. So I'm going to echo real quick. I want to add some information to that test.txt. So we'll do 55. I'm going to add that in there to test.txt, and then we'll cat test.txt. So now I got the 55 in there. I want to combine these two files now. So here's a way to combine these two files. You can cat, and we're going to do test.txt space. The second file that I want to combine it with is the test1.txt, and we're going to use the caret, and we're going to call our file test.2.txt. So what this is going to tell the system to do is take the first test file, add it, or well, take both the files, combine them together, and add it, create a new file called test.2 or test2. So let's cat our test2 file and see what's in there. So now you see 55 is at the top, right? Because I put 55 in the test.txt, and I said take test.txt, and it just goes in order. So it'll take the test first, and then it'll take the test one, and it just adds the data back and forth. You can do that up to a bunch of different files. Now, let's redo that command. So hit up a couple times till you go back to that command. And this time, we're going to add the second caret, and we're going to append that test.2.txt file. So what we're going to tell it to do is take these first two files and add that information to what is already in the test2 file. And then we'll cat test2 again. And you'll see everything's doubled essentially. So it just took those two files and added it up once again to the end of the file. So that's just some basic file manipulation. So let's delete one of these. Now, we're not going to use certain commands with the delete because you can screw stuff up real bad. But rm for remove, we're not going to use anything, any flags with it. So we're just going to do, let's get rid of our test2.txt file. So rm test2.txt ls, and we see it's gone. So let's back up one and ls, and so the way to remove directories, that command is rmdir. So let's do that real quick, and let's rmdir our test directory. So I want to remove this entire directory, right? It failed. And it failed because it's a safety measure. It is telling you that directory is not empty. There is stuff in there, so you want to be careful about deleting it. I believe the command, what is it, R for recursive?
Yeah, -R.
-R. So that stands for recursive. That means take this test directory, and I want to delete that test directory and everything inside of it, no matter how far it goes. Theoretically, if you want to screw around, you can go to test, make a new directory in there, make another one, and just keep going down a rabbit hole and make 5,000 directories deep. And the -R command will remove the entire thing. Oh, crap, that's not what I wanted to do. I accidentally copied my password hash. Really? So I gotta use RF?
You might have to, your rmdir. So you can use rmdir to clear out an empty directory.
See, this is why I need you. So RM directory, like he said, it's only for empty directories. RM is just remove period. We'll use the R for recursive. LS.
There you go.
And now all of our little play test files are done. So let's move on to looking at our IP address stuff. Who's messaging me? Mr. Dubs. Mr. Dubs is telling me the National Cyber League practice games start tonight. So if any of you guys are in that, go ahead and look at that stuff. Or get ready for your practice. Okay, so let's look at our network settings. So there's a couple commands we can do. Oh crap, I'm in the wrong thing, typing somewhere. So, once again, So if we do ifconfig, this shows us our interface configurations. So I have ETH0. It's going to stand for Ethernet. And you'll see some of the information in there, like my IP address is 10.0.2.15, my net mask, and then the broadcast range for it. Since we're running it on a virtual machine, you're not going to get the same address as your home network because it's inside another computer. And then in the bottom, you'll see LO, which stands for the loopback address, and that should always be the same. 127.0.0.1 is always a loopback address on a system. So some other things we can look at. Let's type IP. Now I'm going to add some stuff into this later, but if we just type IP right now, it's going to tell us, hey, here's a bunch of options we can do. I've seen it typed two ways. There's IP address, and this gives us more detailed information about those interfaces and the IP addresses with them. So if we go down to the second one, we got the ETH0, or Ethernet, because this has a simulated Ethernet connection on it. That's my MAC address you can see on there. So we got our MAC address now if we need that for some reason. I don't know what the dog is doing. If we need that for some reason for that interface card or that network interface card. Now there's another one you can type, IP ADDR show, and this gives us the same information, just a different way to find it. Don't ask me why they have multiple commands that do the very exact same thing, but here we are. So on this system, I can't do it. If we were on my regular computer, I would do it, but there's a command called if up and a command called if down, and this is a way to bring an interface up and an interface down. But you have to, we'll type it out just to show it. I'm not going to run it because I have no idea what will happen if I bring it down. If down, and then you have to type in that interface. So in this case it would be ETH0. Problem, yeah, screw, no. I'm running the internet on something else. I'm running it on the main computer. I don't think this will cut me off from it. So let's go ahead and do it. Really? Did I not type that right? Huh. Maybe it won't let me bring it down because it's a virtual machine. So, but you will use those in some of your test out courses specifically to bring up and down the wireless interface on there, so you can get a new IP address, or when you change the MAC address on the network card to spoof something. But then we'll just run through these. You've probably seen these two other commands in your Windows class, but you can trace route right off this as well. So you'll see two things: trace route and trace path. So we'll just do google.com. You guys will use this just like you do in your Cisco networking class to troubleshoot hop destinations to see, did I make it there or did I not? Let's try the trace path. www.google.com. Yep, and that is not installed on this. It's a bunch of tools you can download, but I do not have them, and we're not going to get them today. So last thing I'm going to show off real quick, and then I'll let him go, is ARP. Pulls up more information about my interfaces. You can see my IP addresses and what is it, the MAC address again on there, and the interface. That's another way to pull up if you just want specific the MAC interface or the MAC address for the interface. So do you guys have any questions on some of the stuff I typed? No? All right, Mr. Chef Penguin, would you like to?
All right.
You want to show? Oh, are you going to do the NeoFetch thing and then show them the bash file?
I wasn't planning on it. I was going to go through more like customizing things, but you can go ahead and do NeoFetch.
I'm going to knock this out real quick.
That's your baby.
Type in NeoFetch. This is a fun tool that everybody. Oh, what? No, excuse me. Sudo apt install neofetch. It's neofetch. Yes. So we'll give this a second. This is something I did on my other computer because I just liked how it looks. This will provide you an ASCII text picture and information about your system. But I went into my bash RC file like I was talking about with y'all where it controls my shell emulator and my settings. So now that we have NeoFetch installed, let's just run NeoFetch and see what happens. This is the default. It's going to be customized to the specific system you're using. But in this one, you see, I have Kali Linux. It gives me a Kali Linux logo. And it gives me other information about my computer. The uptime, it's been running for 2 hours, 40 minutes. My OS, my host, I'm on a VirtualBox. The kernel number that I'm using, shell. This one is ZSH. I want to say my other one is like GNU SSH. And then it gives you some other information, the CPUs, the GPU, and the memory. So if we want to edit this, let me close this down. I'm going to close my terminal. I'm going to pop it back up. It's empty. Nothing's on here, right? Come on, I don't want that to be full screen. All right, so remember when we did that ls-a and we saw everything in here? Well, I want to go into my bash RC file. So I'm going to sudo nano.bash rc. Kali. Now this is a bunch of information in here about the bash profile. And you can go edit this stuff in here, but we're not going to mess around with it. We're just going to go all the way to the bottom, so hold page down. So when you open the shell terminal, this bash file run, or this bash RC runs. And so it sets everything up for this user. Well, I'm going to add NeoFetch to that list. And so when I open my terminal, it's going to automatically run everything to set it up. But at the very end of it, it's going to run NeoFetch for me. So let's do Control X. Yes, I want to save. That's the file. Let's close it down. Let me open it up again. Oh, really? I thought that was going to work. I feel stupid now. That's not something I have to log out for, is it?
Shouldn't.
To
You just have to close the
refresh.
terminal and open it back up.
Okay. I did not. Well, let's see. Maybe I mistyped something. Sudo nano. Kali. This is the fun part about this. Nope. It's in there. Should be in the. I will look this up because apparently I screwed this up. And I'll let what's his name, Mr. Chef Penguin, talk right now. So, are you gonna stream something?
All right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put your. Let me stop streaming. Whatever you're streaming, I'm gonna put on the recording.
Sounds good.
So yes.
All right. Let me see. It's gonna be.
Chat
this
will not be on this
VM.
recording, so if you guys text him a message, the video is not gonna see it. So don't worry about that.
All right. Can y'all see my screen?
It's taking a second to load.
I'm on Windows, so it shouldn't be broken.
Yep, I see it now. You got Argent and Elite Haxers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that might be a hint for the upcoming competition.
All right, go
But
ahead and take a
I'm just
picture.
going to show y'all a little bit about customization. So obviously I have Fedora running here. Going to log in. Fedora has SC Linux by default, so it gives you a bunch of information about the last login times. So here's this, and I'm running, as you can see, the XFCE desktop environment, which is what DE is right here. The desktop environment is kind of what handles your desktop session, basically. It handles your cursor, your little icons, where all these toolbars are set up, how they're set up, and there's a bunch of them. You can go into rabbit hole on customizing these things, but I'm just going to kind of touch the surface for now. I'm just going to give you a couple examples of different ones. So XFCE is a really common one. It's really low maintenance. It doesn't have high memory costs. It doesn't have a lot of fancy features or anything. It's just bare bones. Hey, here's desktop environment. You can see Firefox. You can see your icons. That's about it. But if I go out of here and log out, and that's important. You have to log out between them, otherwise it'll it just won't load any new sessions. And it's kind of hanging for me. Awkward.
Something that I've noticed using Linux Mint is I have a lot of issues logging out, or like if I walk away and my computer goes into like hibernate mode and I try to get it back up, a lot of the times I'll have to pull up a terminal and reboot.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is this, because it looks like, there we go, okay. So what I just did was I swapped over to a TTY session, which is just like a fallback. If your desktop environment's not loading, like your Linux isn't launching for some reason, you can Control Alt F2, and that'll bring you over to TTY, which you can, let's see, I think that one's this. And you can still get into your machine just fine. But obviously you want the pretty desktop. So, like you saw earlier, I had XFCE. If I go down to this little gear icon here, I have a bunch of different desktop environments installed. So I'm going to go to Plasma this time, which is, and then it gives me that last login again. And this one is a favorite for people who like to dig in deep on customizing their desktop. As you can see, it's kind of stuttering a little bit. It has higher resource requirements than XFCE does. Like I said, that one's really minimal. This one's not quite as minimal, but it has a lot more options for you. And if I right click and enter edit mode with KDE, you can change a whole lot of different things on it. Like I can move panels around wherever I want, can make it as ugly as I want if it decides to work with me here. Let's see. Yeah, I click over here on the panel and I can change. Let's say I don't like it over here on the left like Ubuntu does it, so I can just move it down here where Windows does it. Or I can be a complete lunatic and move it over to the right in between my two monitors just to annoy myself, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move it down to the bottom like a normal person, and I can align it however I want. I can move things around, change the opacity, change the visibility, and that's all stuff that's specific to KDE Plasma, which is the desktop environment that I'm playing around in now. You can add widgets and fiddle with your wallpapers. I'm not going to do that now, just for the sake of time. So I'm going to go down here again and log out again. Are you going to work with me this time? Let's do this again. There we go. So, I'm going to go back here, go back to the gear icon, and GNOME. This is sort of the standard one that Fedora uses. It's standard for a lot of different versions of Linux. Just runs well, there's a lot of customization options for it. Let me see if I can bring up. What's the website again? That's it. So this website, gnomelook.org, I'll drop that in the chat. Hang on. That has just a bunch of different themes that you can install. Like if I wanted to get Windows 10 icon themes, and just go in here and download it, install it. There's a, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but there's a theme editor for GNOME that will just take this and install it for you. Go. This one also really likes to drive home that there are different desktops that you can use. Like I can launch Firefox in this one, bring up YouTube, and have this playing a video in the background while I jump over here and focus on like doing dev stuff in the terminal. Like I can RC. I can be programming over here, and I have the entire desktop to work with, while this other workspace is just plugging away with YouTube. So I'm gonna go to the next one. Gonna log out. Yes, please log me out. That one actually worked. Hallelujah. Now I'm gonna go over to Cinnamon, which is one that Lee is very familiar with.
Woohoo!
That's the one. That's also the one I run on my main desktop.
Yeah, this is the default for Linux Mint. It is a very comfortable one for people coming from Windows because it looks almost exactly like Windows did back in the day. I think there are even, yeah, like you can see, it even saved my Firefox session where I was on YouTube earlier, because that's independent of the desktop environment. But there's, let's see, I think it's 5 is what it is. Yeah, there's even themes to bring it all the way back to Windows 95 because people like Windows. And installing any of these is as simple as going in here, and this is Fedora, so I'm using DNF. If you're on Ubuntu or any of the Debian distributions, it'd be APT. If you're on Arch or any of the Arch distributions, it would be Pacman. So I just sudo DNF install at Cinnamon Desktop. And because I already have it installed, obviously, because I'm inside of it right now, it's installed already, but that's just how you would. Exactly.
You mind if I interrupt you for a second?
Of course, go ahead.
Scroll back up and show them your NeoFetch. Alright, so I found the issue with why I couldn't get NeoFetch to run off the bat. His shell is Bash. The default shell on the new Kali Linux is Zish or ZSH. NeoFetch will not run in that shell.
Is that what it
off
is?
the load. So yes. I had to go back and change my
ZSH.
shell. So my Kali Linux now uses Bash, and when I fired it back up and after logging out, it works now. So that's something to pay attention to. This is how your terminal operates. So he's using this one. They all operate slightly differently.
Yeah, you're right.
I use ZSH, and I edited my ZSHRC and added that line in there. So yeah, it works on that. You just got to get the right file.
I'm so used to just using Bash on that's what I use in Linux or on Mint. I didn't even think to check about the shell until I started looking through it. And I see that now. That's ZSHRC file.
Yeah, that's the thing with Linux is you gotta. There's a lot of small fiddly things that seem like they don't matter. Like who thinks about the desktop environment they're running? But if you're running the wrong one, then things don't work. Like I was showing you, Plasma has all kinds of different things you can change in it, and it's got all kinds of config files if you go down that rabbit hole. And Cinnamon doesn't have any of that. Cinnamon is just Cinnamon. And if you're expecting one thing and you're going, well, why can't I fucking change the size of my toolbar and make it go away? Uh, you're just in the wrong desktop environment. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. Does anybody have any questions? This is something we can do more often if we want, because there's so much to learn in this. I've been using Linux for like a year and a half, and I barely know anything. I feel like an idiot half the time. So if you guys do want to learn more about this, like keep using it, keep messing around with even that basic level stuff where I showed you of like how to make a file, how to move it, how to add information into it. Because that's something I had to go look up today, because I can't tell you the last time I typed in a TXT file like that and went and edited it and moved it around. It's just something I don't normally do, especially on Mint, because I just use the desktop.
Also, here's another thing that I just thought of, but let's see.
So what
There we
is
go.
Kitty?
Kitty is another terminal. So over here I have, let's see, I think it should be in here. Yeah, this is the standard GNOME terminal. It's what a lot of things just ship with. So I came over here and installed Kitty, which is a different terminal that I think I might need to close out and open it back up. But it's really easy to change themes. As you can see, the color scheme on it, which if I hold it right here, you can see real easily, is entirely different because I changed the theme on it. So like you were saying earlier with the directories being blue and zip files being red,
Can you
now
show
they
us
won't be.
that in both terminals real quick? Like do an LS for everybody to see the colors.
Yeah, let me get this.
And what is that command
That-
completed thing that keeps popping up?
That is, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't played around with Fedora very much. It might be a Fedora thing. It might be a Cinnamon thing. Oh, it's looks like a Kitty thing, maybe. I'm not sure. It's just telling me that a command has been completed. I guess if I was running like an in-map scan that took 3 hours to run, that would be handy.
Yeah, I
But-
didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's great for long scans like that.
It's touch file. File. Go, so that's file. Oh, alright. Fuck it. Delete zip file. Screw it. But you can see the color differences here. Like over here, they're a little bit more vibrant. Over here, they're a little more muted. So if I do Kitty plus kittens, which is what their what Kitty's modules are called. Theme is the module. Hang on. There we go. Gonna stick with dark so I don't flashbang you, and epilepsy warning. Scroll down. I can change over to. Let's do Cyberpunk.
So have you? How hard would it be for you to make your own theme using Kitty?
Using Kitty, not too hard. I have to look up the actual config file, but
Yeah, that might be just like a fun class to do for like 30 minutes. Like everybody downloads Kitty. Let's all go in and screw around and make our own custom theme.
yeah, a lot of them you can. Yeah, cool retro term. Let's see. Oh, that's cool. So something I didn't know with Fedora, if you type out, it'll tab complete
Yeah,
install
if
file.
it knows the file path or the file name.
Yeah, like every Linux distro will have tab autocomplete. Any that's worth its time. Basically, if I do CD, capital D, lowercase, as long as I give it enough to go off of, I can just hit tab and it'll complete the entire file name. If I'm going to like a different directory, it'll still do it, like Etsy password. That's a hidden file, so you get my point. But yeah, I can do that with install files, which not every distribution will do. So, cool retro term, and that just brings up, it looks like a CRT TV.
That reminds me of like the original Fallout game.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was themed after. Yeah, there's plenty of them. And as you can see, it's going to be even weirder with this because it's got that weird ghosting effect, and it's got, and you can see the color palette there is just all amber. Right click. Wow, look at that. And so you can go in, swap around, get the Apple II going. And I think it'll also change the ghosting, if I remember correctly. But yeah, you can go in, you can change all this stuff, and you can do that on like Kitty as well. If I find the right... Yeah. You make profiles is how you... Preferences. Yeah, so you come over here to profiles, do whatever, make one, and you can just... This is the color palette. So like if I wanted to do... let's do Solarized. That's a good popular one. So I do that, close, and that should come over here, change profile to that ASDF, and you see it changed all the colors.